Long before that Muhammad cartoon contest, this would-be killer was all over Twitter, leaving many to wonder why he wasn't already behind bars. Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Payne, in for Neil Cavuto. And the FBI says it did know about Elton Simpson and did warn Garland, Texas police about him. But if tweets against Americans and hooking up with ISIS aren't enough to take these guys down right away, Jerry Willis wants to know what is. Jerry is also joined by Ben Stein, Charlie Gasparino, Scott Martin, Julie Roginski. All right, Dagan, by the way, and Adam, they will be back next week. But, Jerry, this is nuts. I mean, we have these guys. We know that they're out there. We know they're potential menaces to society, and they slip through our fingers.
Look, I know the conventional wisdom is that it's easy peasy to monitor social media and follow it all along the way. But once you do that and you're rigorous about it, believe me, these people are going to go somewhere else.
But the fact is he didn't go anywhere else. He was there. He was ranting and raving all the way up to the moment he took out guns.
And we missed it.
Yeah, but why?
We're not paying enough attention. You know what the real problem is? The government just isn't good at technology. Did you notice how long it took us to get healthcare.gov up? Do you know that the nuclear arsenal is managed by floppy disks? We're not good at this.
Ben Stein, the thing is, I think what we're really not good at is communication. Before 9/11, we had a lot of information. A lot of people saw things. They said things. It got lost in the sauce. One agency didn't speak to another. It feels like the information is there, but we're not acting on it.
Well, I think Jerry really nailed it. It's hard to think, aside from the frontline soldiers, FBI men and CIA men and women, of course, what we are good at in the government. There's been a long, long time since we had a government that we felt was really tip-top and on the top of its game. But I know from a conversation I had with Richard Helms, former head of the CIA long, long ago, that the CIA, in the days of telephone calls, before there was internet, was able to pick up algorithms and pick up certain phrases, even in Russian, which gave them warnings about things that were to come. Surely that is not beyond the reach of men. And if the NSA can't do it, let's contract it out to Apple or IBM.
You know, Charlie, I know you know a lot of guys in law enforcement. Again, I think the information is there. What I don't understand is the connection of these dots and why we continue to allow them to get away. The guy with the gyro chopper, same kind of deal.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm going to kind of defend the FBI and the NSA by saying this. It's like a needle in a haystack. This stuff is all over the internet. For every one of these, there's about 1 million of these guys that they literally have to sift through, and we don't hear of all the attacks that they thwart. They actually do a decent job. We hear about the ones that they don't. And by the way, the ones they don't turn out to be, very deadly. We know that, and that's the burden that they have. Listen, my problem with law enforcement is simply this: I think the men and women on the front line are pretty good. They catch a lot of these guys. We should point out that the FBI did inform the Garland Police Department that this guy was a menace, that he was probably going to do something at this confab of artists, but we should point out they also have ridiculous priorities. They spend millions upon millions of dollars on insider trading and other ridiculous financial crimes after the financial crisis. It had nothing to do with the financial crisis, which that was money that could have been diverted to terrorism.
Hey, Scott, I got to tell you, I think we spent $50 million trying to put Barry Bonds in jail for using steroids. I mean, Charlie makes a great point. This is kind of lunacy.
It's terrible. And, Charles, I get the point about privacy and freedom of expression, but I'll tell you, in so many of these cases, these guys or gals hide in the weeds, and then all of a sudden they have this blow-up or this outburst on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we don't do anything about it. Now, the point was made that the government is bad at technology. Yes, I agree. The track record speaks for itself. But the companies that provide these platforms have a responsibility to help the government, work with the government to keep these terrorists, these organizations down and off social media, and they aren't doing a good job of working together.
That brings up a great point, and I want to play a soundbite for you guys from the U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch, because this is that fine line we're talking about. We do get the heads up. We know what's going on. Twitter probably should have known also. Take a listen to what she had to say, and then I'm going to ask Julie about it.
We're certainly using all the tools available to us to determine how social media is being used. But as always, we have to balance that with with every individual's right to free speech, with privacy rights. Those are very, very important concerns.
All right, so Julie, we have rights to free speech and privacy rights. To me, though, when you start to put it on Twitter, you're sharing it with the world, and if you're telling someone that, hey, I can't wait to hook up with ISIS and kill a few Americans, that sends off a red flag.
Well, I guess that's the question question. I'm not a lawyer, but I guess that's the question. Where's the fine line?
As a citizen, though, where do you think?
Well, as a citizen, if as a citizen I say, hey, I love ISIS. ISIS is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I should be able to say that. If I'm going to go out there and say, hey, I'm sorry, wait, let me say this. It's my right to free speech. Listen, I think what Pamela Geller stands for is repulsive. She has the right to say it. I think saying I love ISIS. Let me finish my thought, though, Charlie. What I think there is no right to is to say, hey, I love ISIS so much that tomorrow I'm going to go to Charles Payne's house and kill Charles Payne because he's an infidel. That's where the line is to me.
Do you have a right to shout fire in a crowded movie
you
theater?
Don't because that might lead to trampling people. That's
different. Should you not be subject to persecution for it?
But let me ask you this: do you have a right? And this is where the gray area comes in, and I side with law enforcement being very vigorous. Do you have a right to say I support a group that avows to kill people?
How do I support them? How do I support? Do I support them materially? No. But that's a big difference. Let me answer the question.
Answer that question, then we're going to bring in the rest.
Let me answer that question. Because do I materially support them? Do I support them by going to Yemen?
Come on, materially.
No, Charlie, there's a big difference. Wait a second.
Materially supports ISIS?
Would you have arrested? Wait a second. Would you have arrested? Let me finish my answer. Would you have arrested every member of the Ku Klux Klan for being in the Ku Klux Klan, or just the people that went and lynched people?
It may have not gotten as big.
Let's bring in Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
I would.
Well,
you would?
Charles,
that's against the First Amendment, I think.
I would.
Go, Scott.
Why can't people accept that if you put something like that, like Julie noted on social media, you're going to at least be investigated and or persecuted? I mean, everybody seems to be so scared that, if somebody puts something like that up, we can't go after these people until they actually act on these bad intentions. Come on.
Real quick, I got to bring Ben. Ben, I've been watching your facial expressions on the side. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I'm horrified that Julie loves ISIS. I would never have expected that of a loyal Democrat.
She seemed like such a sweet girl.
If that's the official Democratic Party position, I guess we have to go with it. But no, at a certain point, what we learned in law school was you have free speech up until the point where you endanger other people's lives. If they're saying we're going to go kill people in the name of ISIS, of course they should be watched and not persecuted but prosecuted. Of course they should be watched.
Agreed, but until that point, they can express their opinion no matter how.
Okay, now, guys, I want to get back to the original premise, though. Hold on one second, Charlie. I want to get back to the original premise of what we're talking about, though. Someone goes on Twitter. They say, I want to join ISIS. I like what they stand for. Death to America. Where does law enforcement step in and can monitor these people?
It begins right there.
It begins there, but we keep dropping the ball, though, Jerry. That's the problem.
We do drop the ball, but I have to tell you, like, there's what's legal and there's what makes common sense. And the folks who put on this art display, it wasn't common sense. They should have.
But you're not saying they deserved what they got.
I think that if you say death to America,
no, I'm talking about the people who put on this art exhibit.
No. I'm not saying they deserve what they got.
Okay.
But you are inviting trouble by doing that. Some people just want to be controversial and get out there.
But listen, I want to go back to you real quick. Ben, help us wrap this up because we need to understand. And by the way, later on during the business block, another show will go into deep discussion on whether how much responsibility with the art contest itself. But Ben, before we get out of this segment, help us out because this is serious. Let me tell you, I think it's amazing that these people put all this stuff on their social media because they put it out there every single day and they're yelling to the world, I'm a potential criminal, I want to hurt other people. Law enforcement's got to find a way to zero in on these guys.
Well, law enforcement does, and Twitter has an absolute right and duty. All these social media sites are making billions. They have an absolute duty to behave responsibly and to help the government and monitor these communications. And if something is dangerous, alert the media, alert the authorities immediately. They have a responsibility.
All right, guys, let's leave it right there. Forbes on Fox with David Asman's just about ready to go. So, David, what's coming up?
Hi, Charles. The president's next executive action may be to close Gitmo down. Why some here say that'll cause terror attacks to go up. And when disaster strikes, FEMA funds come to the rescue unless your state's not with a climate change agenda. We'll explain that at the top of the hour. Charles, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Of course, we'll be watching. But first, Baltimore asking the government for more help. But it's Baltimore's problem. The government's already helping too much.